On this episode of SkillCast, we have a man who needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. He has worked his whole life in the skilled trades, making many different kinds of decisions, and ultimately ended up as a boiler operator. More than that, he's been a man in my life who has inspired me to believe that I can do anything that I wanted to do, including writing this book, trying to make a business, and trying to encourage people like he has encouraged me into the skilled trades. I think you will find him as valuable as I find him. He is my dad, Jeff Cap.
Hi, John.
Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for doing this for me.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. What we want to start off with is trying to get to know about your background a little bit first. So tell us, firstly, a little bit about maybe some of your time in high school, thinking about, what were the things that you were involved in? It's kind of a critical period in anybody's life where you're trying to think future career development. What were you thinking, Dad?
High school. I went to a all-guys school in Cleveland, Ohio. Got involved with like drafting and woodworking.
Mm-hmm. What was drafting like?
Drafting was interesting since I have such crummy handwriting.
They gave you grid paper so you could...
Yeah, you did grid paper and drew lines and 3D things, and it was interesting to see how they build things and how you can translate what you're seeing to make a project of some sort. So it was very interesting. And
do you have a particular thing that you built that they asked you to build, like a bridge or a building or something like that?
It was mostly parts,
yeah,
and things of that nature.
I got you.
And trying to get them so that everything's to dimension of what it should be.
Mm-hmm. So this was like a class during high school, right?
Correct.
Because that's what we all think of modernly today is when we're talking about the skilled trades and people are like, there's nobody going in the skilled trades. Well, we used to have, shop class or whatever.
We did
right?
used to have shop class.
And that's where the woodworking came in.
Woodworking came in there. I did a quarter of electronics. The weird thing is I didn't take the automotive class.
Yeah. What is weird about that?
Well, I spent most of my life working on automobiles.
Why? Who got you into that?
Well, it was my dad got me involved with it.
Tell us about your dad.
My dad was quite a guy. I love him. I miss him dearly. He had me starting to work on cars. He had a small automotive shop in Cleveland, Ohio during the course of the Huff riots, which was back in '66, if my memory serves me correctly. Had to shut it down during the course of that. It was pretty violent for those of you who don't know what went on there. But he would drag me down there. I believe I was around 8 or 9 years old. He would have me chase a hammer, teach me what a hammer was, or a screwdriver, or a socket, and how to read it, and things like that. And that's kind of where I started getting my hands on tools.
Did you like the shop?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What about it did you like?
It was dirty.
Yeah.
I didn't get yelled at for getting dirty. You mess around, explore, poke around, see whatever a kid would do,
Yeah. Well, it parallels pretty well for me. I mean, growing up, you had a shop.
Mm-hmm.
I was invited down to the shop doing things that I was allowed to do, fetching a tool. I mean, there was a crank. We would be pulling an engine out or something. I don't know.
Hoist, yeah. Hoist. We had a hoist in the ceiling that was yank engines. That was cool.
There was one that you could roll around though too on the floor.
We had one of those also, but we also
and the thing that you rolled under the cars on, the skateboard.
That's what we called it. Yeah, it's a big skateboard. Have fun.
Burning boxes, that was number one.
Oh, you could burn boxes there. We had our barrel out back. Yes.
So it familiarized me with shop life, trade life.
Mm-hmm.
Was that what maybe gave you the desire? I mean, like during high school, you have shop class, you have your dad's shop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fixing cars. I mean, you're old. Let's talk about you're very old, but
I am very old. Yeah,
I'm
the oldest guy in the room most of the time these days.
But you're not old enough that college was very live and well and encouraged, Talk to me about your thoughts with university and juxtaposing that to maybe my career would be more like
Well,
skilled trades.
in high school, I did actually. It was a college prep type high school, and I had my eyes focused on doing accounting. And I actually went to college. I went to John Carroll University. 1 year into it, I decided that this is not for me. I was not into reading books. I never was really a good reader. I mean, I can spell a little bit. It just was not for me to do. Now, part of that was I followed with all my friends.
Yeah.
All went to college, actually. Not just that one, Cleveland State, but went around. But after I left there, I was still accepted by my cronies to go and hang out with them.
Yeah.
So I was still in that atmosphere all through the course of them going through college.
Well, this is a good moment. I want to unpack it a little bit because, I feel like other people have this moment where you're in school, you're in high school, and you don't really enjoy all of the academics that allows you for. In your case, you also had shop class and you had more of a desire to work with your hands, right?
Correct.
I mean, a lot of people don't have that experience now. We don't have the ability to make the birdhouse, as it were. That's kind of a classic kind of a thing here. Even knowing that about yourself, unpack for me, slow down that moment a little bit. Why would you still maybe go to college? What were some of your thoughts that were motivating you? I know you had that year and you had an acceptance, you're following friends, but like what else? Like if you know this about yourself, right?
That was just the thing to do at that day and age. Everybody went to college, and I followed the pack. There was pressure.
But then, like, ultimately, I'm not even trying to make it negative too much, but ultimately, you also wanted to go, right? Like, you
Yeah.
saw that.
Yeah, I was thinking get an accounting job, and there you go.
Well, you went and, helpful probably to discover that in the first year, not the fourth year.
Amen.
Yeah.
It was very expensive in them days.
Yeah. It hasn't gone down these days.
It's gone very much up.
So now you made that decision. Now what?
Well, I had an opportunity. My father bought a transmission repair shop that was much larger and in a better area in the Cleveland Heights area of Cleveland. He had a number of employees there, and he allowed me to come in there and start learning that trade more seriously.
With your connection, obviously, to your dad, did you ever stop going there? Like the dibbling and dabbling? Or what was different about this moment,
Well, this moment I wanted to work.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make some money.
Yeah.
If I'm going to quit going to college, then I may as well make some money while I'm here.
Yeah.
And it was just a lateral move to go do some of that, since I had done some of that through the years with him.
Yeah.
I mean, he used to bring home cars at home and do side work that way. And I worked on cars basically since I was 9 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was an easy move.
Yeah. I already felt like some confidence, but you needed more. How did you build it?
Needed a lot more. Well, how did I build it? Just by doing.
Yeah.
Getting your hands on things and trying to absorb what people are teaching around you, He had, I think at the time he had like 3 employees besides me.
Okay.
And I was mostly just, I guess you could call it an apprentice for all means, but there was more give because I was the kid, I was the boss's kid.
Sure.
You know what that's like?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So, it worked out pretty well.
So, there's a point at which I know for me learning the trade that I really settled in, there was a point at which I went from being the apprentice to realizing that I was being helpful and could be trusted. And it wasn't like a split second moment. It was many days, many moments. And then the people around me had to also decide, yeah, I think this is good to go. So can you think of any stories or moments that like help you to remember like, oh, I'm good at this?
Well, look, with being involved with doing a lot of different things there. I mean, I was also doing the tow truck driving to bring in dead cars, and
Yeah.
there were a lot of other things I was doing besides that. But I remember one poignant moment when, being a transmission shop, we had units already built and ready to go. So I remember a customer coming in, dropping off his car, and he's like shaking his head. He says, "Man, I really need this car. How soon can you do it? You know, I got to really get back on the road." Dad says, "Well, I don't know. We could probably have it for you in an hour." And this guy says, "What? What, an hour?" He says, "Yeah, an hour." He says, "There's no way you can do this thing in an hour." He says, "See that young man over there?" He says, "He'll have that transmission in there in an hour." He says, and he put money down on it. I don't remember what the figure was like that.
$400,000.
No, it was maybe today, but not back then. But yeah, I had it in less than an hour, and he was back on the road and got an attaboy. I didn't get the money for the bet, but but it was a moment that I guess I really do know what I'm doing here, or getting better at it anyhow.
Yeah.
And it gave me a sense of not only encouragement, but I could own this. I could own that feeling.
Do you have a sense to how old you were at that time?
I was probably around 20-ish.
Yeah.
I would guess about 20-ish. I probably was married at that point.
Yeah.
Back there to your mama.
To my mother.
To your mama. Yeah.
That's wonderful. I mean, man, it was actually so significant for me to feel like I could clock in and move the ball down the field for even the company that I was working for, that they could rely on me, that I could make them money, that I was no longer just feeling like I was kind of in the way, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, the next part of that is not only am I useful, but then you have ideas on how to make it better. You kind of envision yourself settling, slowing down, in the sense of, I can really make some roots here, you know, and help some people.
To some degree, that is true, but I also did a lot of other things in between. I didn't just stay there. I worked for a number of different people doing other things. I got involved working with my father-in-law, who was a general contractor, and I was putting up walls and buildings and digging ditches and things, all that kind of thing, along with working in other means. So I would kind of come and go with the shop a little bit.
Was that because you enjoyed bouncing around? Was it because you enjoyed money? Was that the bottom line? Were you not quite sure what you enjoyed more?
Combination of all, I think. Work wasn't always steady.
Yeah.
So that would give us both an opportunity to spread our wings a little bit and make it all work. You know,
Get
you
it all
work
to get
together with
good.
the situation.
Yeah.
The door was always open for me if I wanted to come back, and it just worked out that way.
Yeah.
So
you're working at your dad's shop. Eventually, what's some other significant thing that helps to kind of transition your life for the skilled trades?
Well, another part of that, I think, would be that he would also allow me to manage the store.
Okay.
He liked to travel, and he would possess me, give me that to work with and be in charge of men and making decisions. And that also built confidence into my situation. And then after that, it came to a point where I wanted something a little more steady with some benefits that I could, supply my growing family with.
Sure.
And I went to be a claims adjuster for an extended warranty company.
Okay.
But this is kind of cool because it also showed that the skills that I had learned didn't go to waste sitting at a desk, because you had to qualify problems before you could pay them out. Look in books. They're telling us this is bad. Is that really good? So all that previous knowledge.
Yeah, like the car gets in an accident or some part of it breaks down, and you're able to look at it and say, yeah,
or it doesn't sound right.
Sure.
So there was that
they were probably really happy to have you.
Well, everybody there was, I think there were 5 or 6 employees that did the claims adjusting. I eventually got moved up to a manager.
See, but there's only one Jeff Capel.
for sure. We don't want
One is one over.
we don't want two.
All right, you became a manager. I interrupted.
Yeah, so no, that's fine. It just but what happened with that job is they came into work one day and all of our paperwork was gone.
Oh,
And it's like, drawers full. If you want your check for this week, you show up tomorrow in jeans and pack up the rest of the stuff. It's going to New Jersey. So that again put me out on a limb.
yeah.
Dad was still at the shop and did what I could, and it bounced around. I think your mother was working a little bit this time, and we were juggling kids, so I may have been a Mr. Mom for a little bit.
Yeah.
And you do what you got to do, you know. You're trying to keep your family going and keep them fed and keep the lights on, and
Yeah.
so we made it work.
Eventually, it brought you back to the shop, I think, right? And
Well,
you made like another step with that.
Yes, I did get back to the shop at that point, and Dad decided that he wanted to retire. He was pushing 60 years or something like that. He was tired, and I ended up buying the business from him.
Tell me about that decision, because they're from outside looking in, owning a business in a skill that you know how to do is both hopeful, inspiring, but also has like some major risks as well. So how'd you weigh that out?
That's very true. Well, the plus side of the equation was that I had a lot of experience doing everything that needed to be done. And I knew people that needed to be contacted, and I had a pretty good idea how to handle customers, which could be argued, but I thought I had a pretty good idea. I felt comfortable moving into it. However, that comes with, now you're the man. And you're on call 24/7. Even though you may not pick up the phone, there's still things that you think about. Your wheels really don't stop turning. You're always thinking about this customer. What am I going to do here? Where can I get this part that I need very badly? There's always things rolling on in your head. So your time to yourself is purely to yourself is very irregular.
Yeah.
I'm sure you understand.
I do. I do. But you did it.
I did it.
And how did it go?
I ran it for 5, 6, 7 years, about 9/11 era, somewhere in there. And the business had fallen off quite a bit. It was at a stage where electronics were starting to play a bigger role into cars. To continue, it really needed to make a larger investment into the business. And with business falling off, I was like, do I really want to pursue this?
Yeah.
And invest this money in it that I really didn't have, because I was making a living, but I wasn't making the living that I wanted to.
Sure.
Sure. So I ended up selling the business, which was a stroke of luck. I actually put it out there to the Snap-on guy. I said, I'm thinking about selling this business. Anybody might be interested in buying this business? Now I'm thinking about, we were pretty broke. We were talking about going into bankruptcy at that point. We were pretty broke. I had just become a Christian at that point.
Mm-hmm.
My wife and I, we prayed about it. I had a buyer in like 3 weeks. He was the only guy I told about it. It just, boom, it was on my doorstep. It wasn't all cash at one time. We spread it over a couple months, probably like 6 months.
Yeah.
And it got me out of the hole.
Yeah.
And I moved on to go to work for Firestone and break down tires all day long.
Yeah.
You go back to what you can do. And so basically the anything for a buck guy. I went back to working contractor and whatever I could do to make some money. So yeah, that's where that ended up in there. And then after that, I worked that job probably a year and a half so, but it was really hard on my body. I was getting older at that point, busting down tires all day long. Some mechanical work, but mostly busting down tires. It just was eating me up.
Yeah.
So I made a better decision. I went and started working for a dealership.
What's different about that? Because I
had a lot of reservations about going to the dealership, because coming from an independent, my picture of working for a dealer was that these guys don't care about anybody else around them. They don't cooperate with each other. They don't share knowledge. They don't do this. So it would be going to something that I'm not familiar with the flow of things, but also I'm expecting to get myself into trouble.
Sure.
So
Like they're gonna let you go or something.
not let me go, but just I'm not going to get any help to move into this position.
Gotcha.
That was my perception. Well, what I found out is that really was not the case. People were very cooperative. The shop I moved into had 25 mechanics in it.
Yeah.
I'm coming from a 3-man shop. How do you keep 25 guys busy in the shop and I'm still going to make a living?
Yeah.
It was a little scary.
Sure.
But they had it and they did it, and I ended up staying there for almost 20 years, just shy of 20 years.
Wow.
when I retired. And during that course of time, I became involved with being a person that they had like a committee that would toss around ideas. I was involved in union negotiation, got a little experience that way.
Do you feel like the income was more stable?
Oh, it was a lot more stable. You're guaranteed. It started out as a weekly wage and eventually went to a monthly that you were guaranteed.
Okay.
Wasn't really great, but it worked out. It still had a steady income coming in.
Break it down for us, what was in front of you. As a worker, you could try to figure out how you could increase the income, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or what was up against you.
We work flat rate. So if you stayed busy and you figured things out and you got better at that job, you could do that job in less time, and consequently, instead of this 5-hour job that you're doing, you get it done in 3. Well, you still get paid for 5.
Yeah, gotcha.
So there was the chance to be better at your trade and making more money at the same time.
Yeah. And then if you were behind or a job took way longer, you had that guarantee or whatever.
Well, you guarantee, but you got guaranteed on what the flat rate was.
Yeah.
So if it took you 7 hours on that 5-hour job, you paid your 5.
Gotcha.
So there was a worry there. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And jobs go south all the time. A bolt breaks, something like that, and there's some leeway for compensation, but not always.
Yeah.
So there was stress, just as in any
clock's always there.
As in any job, it's they call it going to work. They don't call it going to play. You got to get busy.
What? You got to work at work?
Well,
what did you like about work?
I enjoyed.
What were your favorite kinds of things to work on?
Yeah. I enjoyed going into engine work, even though my background was more transmission. Transmissions didn't pay very well. They still don't.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed going into an engine that comes in knocking and banging and leaking and whatever, and you get it done and you hit that key. It's all about when you hit that key. Is it going to run? Is it not going to run? And it's a really good feeling when it fires up and it runs nice and you take it for a drive and spin the wheels a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a good feeling.
Yeah,
because it's something that you fixed yourself that you can take pride in, and man, this job came out great.
Well, I know you and I had this experience, father and son, in a different industry not long ago, and I get that. I get, there's a whole bunch of lineup. Like when I work in the industrial environment, you don't just kick on the big piece of equipment like the boiler for us or a compressor or something like that. There's a check, there's a double check, there's lining out valves, there's making sure that the cooling water is going, the lubricants go there. There might be an hour or more of checks on equipment, especially if there's maintenance done. But making sure that when you kick that sucker on, it goes.
Good feeling, isn't it?
That's wonderful. Yeah, it makes you feel very useful.
Yeah.
People rely on.
And this is big stuff you're working on. It just this is not a little thing.
Yeah, and the engine is no small thing for the owner of it.
Oh yeah,
you don't have life for most people these days without having the ability to move. It is crippling to my schedule when I have to go and deal with this car.
I mean, besides that, even just weather.
Yeah.
I mean, getting here today for the weather was a little bit of a play.
Yeah, it's miserable here.
Yeah.
So I have to blame you for that. You decided to stay here in Ohio and raise your family here. We could have moved. People are happy in other places year round.
Nah, couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. I'll go visit.
All right.
Couldn't do it.
Well, you didn't stay in cars forever. Tell us about your thoughts there. What was work going to be for you in the future, and why did you decide to shift?
Well, some different things happened at that point. I retired from the automotive industry with a pension, which like for the first 5-8 years, I didn't even think about the pension, but it ended up being a very nice parachute for me to lean back on because, like I said, when I sold the shop, we were broke.
Yeah.
I had nothing. I was starting from scratch. I had 3 people tell me that I needed to file bankruptcy. Couldn't do it, but that was my advisement. So I moved on. Tail end of me retiring when the time came.
Yeah.
There were quite a few things going on at that point, but just prior to that, we had talked about me going into the boiler work and becoming an engineer. It enticed me, and I ended up going back to school to learn this trade, which is another thing that should be brought out, is that you always use what you have. You fall back on all that work that I did on cars. A lot of that transferred to working with boilers, just knowing what tool to grab and how much torque can you really put on that. And,
Right.
And there's a lot of overlap there. So you always use what you got.
Yeah.
Which is helpful.
Yep.
You know, years of experience took some of that anxiety out.
Yeah.
So once I did that, and I ended up passing the test, which was a guy at my age, I didn't think it was going to happen, but I was able to pass the test and
I
become an
believed in you.
You did.
I knew you could do it.
Yeah, you told me.
Because you had a great teacher. That was.
I had a pretty good teacher.
Pretty good is like saying he was terrible.
Yeah, he was all right.
I did a good job. Okay.
He was all right. But now I worked semi part-time,
Yeah.
Which is good on my body. This industry's a lot easier for the most part on my body.
Sure.
You're not bending over a hood of a car or over the fender of a car that's as tall as me, a truck that's as tall as me to go get at something.
Yeah.
There's some crawling around, but it's a lot easier on my body.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that I can't believe the pay scale that's on right now. The pay scale is like money that I've never made before.
Are we paying you too much?
I think it's just shy.
That's good. I mean,
and the other part about that is I'm really enjoying the people that I work with. Another stigma is that when you go into these trades, these guys all got beards. I ain't got no beard. I can't grow a beard, but everybody's got a beard.
Yeah.
Everybody's about twice as big as me.
Yeah.
You expect these big bears of men to be rude and crude, which we all can be at some point in time, but most of them are just great people.
Yeah, they really are.
Are just really good dudes that are there to help you, that are there to show you what to do and to correct you kindly when you make a mistake. It's really amazing.
Yeah. I'm glad you say that because certainly there are exceptions to that.
Oh yeah.
But there's exceptions
There's always
everywhere.
a jerk, there's always a jerk at work.
But largely it's people just trying to get on with their life. You have bills to pay. We just had a training 2 weeks ago, and the one guy is getting married. The other guy is best man in his wedding. They got to leave the training a little bit early. We all decide, actually, let's come to class early so that they can leave. Like, everybody's trying to bend a little bit because you spend a lot of time together.
Sure.
And you want to try and invest in good relationships. And I think that's seen, and man, what a hurdle it is for people looking into the trades to think, I don't belong there, and pump the brakes a little bit. And I can think of people from all different races, creeds, sects, like backgrounds. All of them have, I have come across working in these fields. I think it's encouraging to see that generally it's a friendly environment.
Yeah, I have to say, for women, probably one of the best contractors I ever saw working was a woman. She was fantastic.
Yeah.
Knew more than anybody, just got the job done and very pleasant and answered questions. She was great.
No small thing to go through what you've gone through in life, selling the business, jumping around, making a whole new career. I don't think you did it alone, did you?
Oh, no, I couldn't have done it without my wife. She's been my strength, my backbone. No way.
Yeah.
No way. I don't know how guys get through without having a support system like I had. We went through some really hard times that she stood by me.
Yeah.
Very important.
You put that into me too.
Good.
Yeah, there's been so many things in our life that I remember making one switch. I will just say one switch from one career to the next. And I was thinking, I don't know that I want to make this pivot into skilled trades. And, but it was kind of sounding good, but it just kind of seemed overwhelming to make some of these decisions. So I went home to Molly, my wife, like kind of hoping, like, I hope she just is like, nah, that's crazy. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I hope she says no,
Mm-hmm.
because that would be very defining for me. But yeah, right. No,
I've
forget
been
that.
there.
And went home and told her, and she's like, I think you should do that. That's happened too many times. Right? Like, oh, okay. I guess we're on the same page.
The apple don't fall far from.
Absolutely. And I think that's part of it too that I want to talk about is like you had an outlook on skilled trades. You did it. You worked in in that field your whole life. And what did you want to impress upon us? You got 3 children. The best one is sitting in front of you. But what did you want to impress upon us in career that
Well,
way?
I was actually talking about this with your mom here the other day, and what our goal was to give you the freedom to decide what you needed and wanted to do.
Yeah.
We didn't want to, as it was when I was a kid, you go to college. We didn't want to make that line in the sand for you.
Yeah.
We wanted to give you freedom to choose and be
Yeah.
comfortable and make your own way and
Mhm.
watch you make mistakes and try to pick you up when you did,
Absolutely. I mean, I felt the support to choose what I wanted to choose always, So you did it. Good job. But I will say, you hit some bad strides. You bought the business and the transmission, the way you do transmissions now is completely different than when you were
Totally.
doing it. So, and then you worked in the skilled trades during a time when the thing that I always feel bad about is that there's never been a part in my life when you haven't worked hard. That whenever that question was asked, who is the hardest worker? Because you get that, and you're posed with that, or how do you define work ethic? Whenever that has been asked, I always think of you, and that has never been a question. But that doesn't mean that every single time that you put hours in, that you were respected for your work ethic. And I feel like there was a season of time there that it was kind of unfortunate that I think they undervalued, especially your trade. I can't speak for all of them. I'm not as connected to all of them as I am to yours. But
They started looking for help in the automotive industry when I first started doing wrenching.
right.
Since the 70s, they've been crying that we need more help. We need more help. It was actually one of the reasons that I decided that when I sold the business, because I was like, well, it's supply and demand.
Right.
We're 30 years later.
Yeah.
This pay raise has got to be here soon.
Yeah.
And actually didn't start seeing it until after I retired. But
Right.
I mean, it came up some, but there were decades that it was pretty stable at one pay rate.
It's significant news for a podcast like this because the stories that come out of a person like you when you think about pay is that it's kind of frustrating that it
was
didn't
very
catch up
frustrating.
for you, but you could even see it as you neared the end for your retirement that it was changing. And for the people now considering it, they have to decipher the stories that have come before them to what is reality today. And there has been some of those changes that unfortunately you were hoping would have come sooner. I think you'd say you still have a happy life, certainly, but you know what I mean? Like you kind of were subjected to that.
Well, you play the cards that you have.
I feel like you are proof of a few things. One of the proofs is that you can teach old dogs new tricks. even if they're real old and a little shabby
Man,
looking,
real old.
you can learn new things. And I commend you for that, because it was no small thing to go from learning cars to learning steam. I think it's commendable to who you are, the work ethic that you had, because it took a lot of effort. But it's also true of what is possible in the skilled trades. What was not in front of you was another 4-year degree, for example. You could use a lot of your understanding from the last few decades, and some of that understanding of mechanics and how it works, and even ignition and that kind of stuff could be converted into this new trade. So you had to have some real effort, but you had done some real effort. And I think, that's proof of who you are, certainly. I think you're also proof that you can build a new community.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You have a cheery disposition. There's a fight between you and LV, who has also been on this podcast, for the people they like working with the most. And that doesn't go unnoticed, or shouldn't go unnoticed. I think you're also proof that you can change, and I think we should further push it here, that you can change hotel chains.
Well, I'm cheap.
Well, it's the red roof. He's got like the Jeff Capel special, red roof. Not a sponsor yet, but
not yet. I'm not a CEO of like a Chick-fil-A yet.
Maybe one day.
I did want to say here
Say it.
interrupt, is that for guys in my position, a word of caution, and hopefully people would know this, but when you retire, don't pull up your easy chair and sit in it. It's not a good thing. You need to move, you need to think, you need to do things that keep you active and motivated. I've seen so many guys through my years that have done that, and they die. And it's so sad. They have all this. My dad died 3 months or 4 months after he sold the business to me. It was pathetic. So you don't, get up there and do something.
Yeah. Well, you have no problems doing that, not only with your interests and what you work in, but like for me, I see the work that you've done on our cars as kids, laying down in the driveway or fixing something in the backyard with us, raking the leaves, to learning a whole new thing and helping us when we call today with whatever, and with a whole bunch of grandkids. They keep you kind of busy as well. I would just say, from my point of view, I'm very thankful for you. I'm appreciative that you've spent the time that you have to listen. The older that I get, the more I see that parents, although I believe they largely love their children, they're kind of disinterested with them.
Can be.
Instead, I think you've constantly played an active role in engagement in our life, and have encouraged us to do things that are bigger than who we are able to do. And so not only do you encourage us and empower it, but you also give the strength to push it through, and you have many times. I think you've been able to put that into your work as well, not just for you and your family, but it's gone beyond to charitable things as well, where you've been able to use your skills to help someone who maybe doesn't have as much to get their car back on the road.
Sure. Like the old folks that are out there, and they're living on a tight budget, and my car broke down and I still need my car to get around, even though I shouldn't be driving anymore.
Yeah.
You go over there and help them out, and it's just a ministry.
Yeah.
God puts things in your life that just, how can you say no?
I think many people do, but the kind of life that you live and the skills that you offer really freely are leaving a legacy. Not only have you helped your family, made a little dough along the way, but
we'll talk about that.
But you've helped people around you. People know that they can rely on you.
No, I'm glad they can.
I know I can.
Great.
I love you.
I love you too, man.
Thanks for spending time on this pod for us.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
All right.
Thanks for watching our video. If you want to see more content like this, be sure to like and subscribe us on our channels. And if you want to continue the conversation to find out if there's a skilled trade that's built for your future career, be sure to pick up our book called Skill Stigma at skillstigma.com.